Are you looking for some Christmas decor DIYs that don't take a whole lot of money, time, or skill? Well, you're in luck. Hi, my name is Leslie, and welcome to Happy Tuesday, where we do crafts and DIY and home decor and more. Today I have for you 5 DIYs that you are going to be amazed at. I can't wait to show you. Now don't forget to stick around until the very end and I'll have a hint on some of next week's shenanigans. Now grab your favorite beverage and let's get crafting. Let's take a quick sneak peek into today's projects. I am loving these so much. That brings us to project number 1. So I saw these little tiny glass tiles at Dollar Tree a while back and picked up some multicolored green ones. So there's a dark green, a light green, and a white. And this little metal frame I found, or framed metal, I found at Dollar General in a clearance section, and they were only 25 cents each. So I bought all the ones that they had, and you'll be seeing this again. So I took my antique wax and I stained the outside. Of course, I'm staining it with my baby wipe, and that way you're putting it on and wiping it off all with the same motion. And then I went through and kind of gave it a heavy dry brushing of Snow White. I found 2 circles that I thought would be about a good size to make our wreath. And so I am just going to trace around them. Now, I will admit on the second one, I did measure that off just a little bit to make sure that we were centered inside that larger circle. And then because I painted the whole thing white, and I'm sure you noticed I painted it with that dauber, because metal and paint don't really go extremely well. So unless you're going to spray paint it, the dauber helps to keep the paint from going on with coming off with every brush stroke. And then I thought underneath the wreath needed to be green, so I went ahead and painted that a forest green, and I think that was a Craft Smart color. Now I'm going to stick this on my little Lazy Susan here, and I am just using this craft glue that I bought at the Dollar Tree. It's just called liquid adhesive, but I didn't think it would be a good idea to take glass tiles and hot glue them onto essentially a metal plate. So we are going to use this craft glue, and I'm going to tell you this stuck really, really well. It was forgiving, so if I needed to move things around, that was great. But it hasn't let any of the tiles loose, which I'm just loving that. So I'll keep that in mind for future projects. So I'm going to go ahead and I just alternated white, dark green, light green all the way around, and I put my first beads out just a little bit outside of that green circle, and my last row of beads, as you can see, I wasn't perfect on that measuring, are going to come inside the circle a little bit. But I think it turns out beautifully. Now, since we have this texture, we're going to come in with a little bit of other texture, and I've grabbed these little red berries. We're just going to cut those off and stick clumpings of them or groupings of them in various places around our wreath. They have them at Dollar Tree, but this particular pick, I believe I bought on clearance at Hobby Lobby last year. It has a really vibrant red color, and I really just love them. I love all the different sizes of them, so that's what I'm using. But feel free to use whatever you want. And if you don't have any little berry things, but you have some air dry clay, make your own tiny little berry pieces and stick those on there. All right, once we've gotten all the red groupings that we wanted, I grabbed another grouping of berries, and these are white. I just wanted a little bit of contrast with those reds that were popping off the page. Now, looking at this now, instead of dry brushing the outside frame after I antique waxed it, I might have gone in with that same evergreen color or forest green color that I used on the wreath drawing, I guess. And now we're going to come in and make a little bow. This is also some ribbon that I bought on clearance at Hobby Lobby. Make sure that after the holidays this year that you check out the clearance, because I just bought everything I thought was cool, got most of it 80 or 90% off, and then just tucked it away for this year. And we are just going to make a little tie bow. So I have 2 lengths of ribbon, one a little bit bigger than the other, and we're just going to tie those off with a little bit of baker's twine, and then glue the 2 of those together, and that will be my ribbon. And I am loving this. Now, to cover up those twine pieces, I'm just going to cut another little length of ribbon and glue that on. I think that gives it that final finishing touch. And so we have all kinds of textures going on here, and I think this is just so stinking cute. I am going to dovetail off the ends of my little ribbons to a length that I think looks good. And once I've got that done, we are just going to glue this right onto the top of our little wreath here and fluff out our bow. And check this out. Is that not the sweetest wreath? I love it so much. And I just used one of the little easel stands, the metal ones that you can buy at Dollar Tree, to display this. But I did leave the hanger on the back in case, I wanted to hang it. Or you could just prop it up in a corner. I just wanted to pop in here real quick and say thank you. I appreciate that we are getting to spend time together today. Now, if you are not already a subscriber and you enjoy content like this, then hit that subscribe button and click the bell below so that you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. Give today's video a big old thumbs up, share it with your friends, comment down below, give me a hype, and let's get back to crafting. All right, that brings us to project number 2. You guys know how much I love snowmen, so we could not do a video without at least one snowman. These are little wood rounds that my husband cut for me from some of our dead branches. But if you don't have dead branches to have rounds cut from, they also sell the wood rounds at Dollar Tree and at most craft stores. And we're going to use a little bit of wood glue and a little bit of hot glue and glue those together. Now I have this, I want to say it was like a blanket fabric. You can find that, and this was just in my craft supplies. I made my daughter one of those tie blankets when she was in college, and this is left over from that. So I am cutting a length of it to make a little scarf, and then I cut little fringe pieces on both ends of my scarf. Now this other piece we're going to glue down the front edge and give it kind of a seam for his little hat, and then we're going to glue his hat on. Now when I started putting his hat on, I thought it looked a little flat, so I am going to grab a little bit of pillow fiber and throw that inside his hat, give it a little bit of I guess substance to it, if that's what you want to say. And I am using fabric hot glue to glue this together. Now, once I've gotten his hat all glued, then I am going to go ahead and stuff it a little bit, making sure that, it doesn't look too weird, because, he's a flat snowman to begin with. So I don't know what I was expecting of that hat. Anyway, once we get it stuffed as we like it, then I'm going to grab just a little bit of black ribbon, because it kind of matched off with the black footprints in my, or paw prints in my hat. And then I'm going to fringe off the top of this hat the same way I fringed off the sides of those scarf pieces. Once I've got that done, I just decided that his hat needed a little pop of white, and so I'm going to grab this little floral and glue that onto the top of his hat. Once we've gotten that done, I am going to take these little red buttons, and I took the button piece off the back side so that they could lay flat on his body. And we're going to glue those down with some hot glue. Then you can see I've got those little Scrabble pieces spelling out the word joy, and we're going to add that onto the side of our little snowman. Once we've gotten that done, then I am going to grab a paint marker or a fine marker, and we're going to draw him on a little face, which I didn't get on, well, I did get it on camera, but my hair was in the way and it looked all blurry, so I just cut it out. And then I took a little scrap piece of wood, and using my miter shears, I am just cutting him a little carrot nose and then coloring it with a little pumpkin chalk paint by Waverly, gluing that on, and then I will finish his face with my little marker. Once we've gotten the face on, I decided he needed some little cheeks, and I thought I could watercolor this, but once I painted it onto the wood, it pretty much was that color, and I'm not especially a super big fan. Plus I had some orange in my water, so that added a little bit of orange onto his cheeks, but it is what it is. And unless I wanted to sand it off and kind of start over, which, you know, I may do, that's the cheeks he was left with. And so I have these little cardinals, and I thought I would put one down, but my little tapping of the finger there, I decided it needed just a teensy bit of snow, and we're going to hot glue this cardinal on there. And I just think this is so stinking cute. Now, I did a whole video of snowmen last week, and if you didn't catch that, I will have that video linked below so that you can go ahead and catch up. I will always do at least one snowman video every Christmas season, or going into the winter. We'll see what we do. Maybe we'll come up with another one after Christmas. All right, that brings us to project number 3. Check this out. And the inspiration for this background came from my sweet friend Sabrina at Sabrina's Craft Nanigans. I'll have her linked down below. In the 12 Days of Christmas collaboration, she did a most beautiful nativity scene. And she started out with mixing blue paints and making them into kind of like a starry night background. And so I'm going to do that on this project, and maybe one other. Now, as you can see, my pool paint, which is the bottom chalk paint, is at the bottom of the barrel, and it's real thick and gooey, and it needs to be replaced. But that's what I had, and so I'm going to try to go with it. And I am just going to run these colors one into the other and continue back and forth until I get this looking the way I want it to. So it probably took about 15 minutes, and I started at the top with black or ink, which is a Waverly color, and then I went in with blue. It's like a navy blue, and then a couple of other blues ending with pool. So I just grabbed all the blue colors that I had and kind of lined them up in order of dark to light. And I wanted, you know, kind of the dark night at the top, and the kind of the lighter at the bottom, because the lighter at the bottom is reminding me kind of a, you know, a snow, kind of the, what do you call it? The shadow on the snow from the Dark Knight. Anyway, I am going to paint off the edges of my canvas too. But then when I took my little, those are felt balls, felt ball garland I bought, I want to say it was 2 years ago on clearance during summer. It was after St. Patrick's Day, because it was a St. Patrick's Day garland, and I knew I would do something with it, but I wasn't sure what, and this looked like the perfect opportunity to use that. Now, my white chalk paint I just mixed with a teeny bit of water and took this, it's a stubble brush, you know, a stipple brush, I guess, and splattered that on. And then I separated out about half of the balls off of that garland, and I set them on the canvas and thought that just looked a little weird. It needed a little depth between where the balls were and the frame. So I'm going to remove my canvas off of this frame. Now this is a larger frame. I want to say it's 10 by 12 maybe, and I bought it at, I'll probably say Hobby Lobby or Michael's, you know, when they do those frame sales. But took it off the frame, and I loved the look of the front of this frame. You know, it's got the nice little bevels and indentions, but it had those staples in the corners. So I took my handy dandy pink staple gun and stapled corners in the back side, and took the ones off of the front, and then I gave it a nice coat of antique wax, giving it that nice stained look. And now I am cutting my canvas down so that I can use my handy dandy pink staple gun again and staple the canvas onto the back side of this frame. Make sure that you get your ends taut so that you can, or the weight of the front isn't going to pull it down. Now, if you don't have these little felt balls, then you could also you could instead use little pom-poms you can make yourself with some yarn of different varying green colors, or they sell at I want to say it was Michael's, a big bag of those little green pom-poms in different color greens, and for like $2 or $3, which would probably be enough to do a tree like this. So I'm just going to alternate and get those on there, and I will go back in there and glue those on off camera. But I kind of wanted you to see the process of, you know, getting those on there and how they started appearing to be a tree in front of that nice background. And I love the contrast between the painted background and the wood colored frame. I just think this is all just looking so beautiful, and I love the different greens. It's really giving me that whole tree vibe. So excited about this. Now, of course, we are going to need a trunk, and so once I've gotten all my balls situated on here, and these little gold balls were in between on the garland, and so I decided to add those on there as little ornaments. And then I'm going to take 3 of the dark brown tumbling tower blocks. I didn't even paint those. I just glued them together with some of that wood glue by Super Glue. And we're going to go ahead and get that glued on as our trunk. 3 of those were perfect. And I love how this turned out. I love the different textures. I love, you know, that it's kind of got that whole 3D element going on it. And I thought this was the perfect way to use that shamrock garland. All right, that brings us to project number 4. This is a super simple one. So we're going to start with a cork and a couple of these little half round stickers off of this sheet from Dollar Tree. You can see that I don't use the whole, you know, they come in like a strip. I don't use the whole strip ever. I just pick little pieces off, and we're going to paint those black. Now, if you have some black dots, you're welcome to use those instead, or maybe you want googly eyes on your reindeer. And then I just took a scrap piece of, I want to say it was cardstock, and I am going to draw on a pattern to give myself for some little reindeer antlers. And once I've gotten that drawn on there, you can see I'm kind of getting fussy with it here, trying to make sure that both sides match-ish. I'm going to go ahead and cut off that pattern. I thought maybe I'd cut 2, but then I decided I would just fold my brown felt over and cut 2 of the reindeer ears at the same time. All right, so we are going to take our scissors and just cut out our little pattern and make our little reindeer ears. Now, I need a pair of super sharp small scissors, because that's what I wanted to use, and those little Dollar Tree ones weren't cutting it. So we came back in with our big shears and, you know, cutting out this tiny little piece out of this felt. It was a little tedious with those scissors. Eventually I give up and I just take the pattern off and finish cutting it out, just freehand, you know, kind of from memory. So I was thinking as I was making this, you know, that this little cork reindeer could have a couple of different uses. You know, maybe you could use it as a place setting or a place marker on a tablescape, or you could stick a little, so you could, you know, do a little metal piece with a circle to hold or a clip to hold the name, or you could maybe put a little eye hook in the back side of it and make it an ornament. I'm just going to stick mine on my tiered tray. I think that is a super cute look for it. And after I got those reindeer ears cut, I cut a little pieces of wire because I wanted some wire to hold them up. And then I cut little pieces of backing to cover the back side of the wire so it looks finished from both sides. Especially on a tiered tray, you know, you never know who's going to see the other side. Then I'm going to take my handy dandy little awl here and add a little bit of hot glue onto the bottom wire and stick that into my cork. And we'll do that twice, one for each of his little antlers. Once we've got the antlers in, then it's time to put his little face on. So we're going to grab some little craft glue, and I have my little detail bottle here that I'm going to use. If you need one, I will have that linked below. You can get those on Amazon. And then I have a little red pom-pom nose that came from a pom-pom package from Dollar Tree. And then I'm just going to take some of this little yarn and wrap it around 3 times for his little scarf. And that is all there is to this project. I think this would be a fun one to make with some kids or grandkids, or maybe a school project. You know, they can make an ornament to take home. I just think he is so stinking cute. All right, that brings us to our final project, project number 5. I am telling you, this has to be my favorite. All right, so I had a couple of different pieces of wood that you could use, a little 2x6 and a little 1x6. I decided on the 2x6 when it was all said and done, and this is just a scrap piece of wood that, you know, I was painted, and I cut it to the size I wanted and then took off a lot of that yellow paint, but I left a little bit and then covered it with antique wax. And I am enjoying this process so much. Thank you, Sabrina. Enjoying this process so much of blending these paints together. It's given me vibes of maybe watercolors a little bit, you know, how you blend your watercolors together. But I'm going to start with the black this time and move my way up and down until I get everything mixed. Now I had to be careful because as I cleared my brush, the water was wiping the paint off the sections where that yellow paint was. So I had to be a little bit careful there. But I found these snowflakes in that little package from Hobby Lobby, and I pulled 4 of the snowflakes out, 4 different ones, and painted those white. And then I gave my background a nice smattering of, we're going to call this snow on this one. Then I wanted to use an outline, but I didn't want to draw one on there. So I'm just going to use some twine and some painter's tape and tape that down. And then I can take all my little white buttons and kind of layer them out, or lay them out, putting in, you know, a little snowflake here and there. And these particular snowflakes kind of had those nice rounded edges that fit buttons really well. So I'm just gonna, you know, take my buttons that I've got and get those in there. My mom used to save buttons, and actually some of these came from her. You know, anytime there was a shirt that got thrown away or pants that got thrown away, or scrapped or used for some other purpose, then she would always cut the buttons off and save those. And there was at one point that she was cleaning out her craft stuff, and she had this bag of buttons and beads and
she gave that to me. So some of these buttons came out of that bag. So thanks, Mom. I am just continuing to get my buttons laid out. You can see this is kind of a little puzzle, and I am loving the way this is turning out. In hindsight, I don't know if you see that clear one. It's kind of near the right side snowflake. In the pictures, it looks like there's nothing there, that it's just the background. So I might not have used that clear one. But now I'm going to take this twine off, and then I'm going to go in off camera and glue my buttons down. And then I decided to use some brown buttons for my tree trunk, and so I'm trying to pick off which size I want and which layer, and we'll go ahead now and get those glued on. Just a dab of glue and then set the button on top. That seems to be the best way to glue all those buttons and everything down. And I am loving this. Would you have added anything to it? Or me, I just liked the simplicity of it all by itself. I thought about maybe adding some twine, and maybe if I hadn't put the tree trunk on there, I would have put the twine down near the bottom. I don't know, but I'm loving the way this is looking out. And like I said, this is my favorite. Here's our final look at all of today's projects. I love these so much, and none of them required a whole bunch of skill or a lot of supplies. Most of them were just, you know, things, scrap things that you may already have on hand, and that's been kind of our name of the game this year, is, you know, using what we have on hand and trying not to buy a whole lot of stuff. Now, if you plan to make any of these, or you want to let me know which one or ones were your favorites, give me a comment below. If you do make any of them, of course, you know, I'd love to see your creations and recreations. You can email that to me at happytuesdaydiy@gmail.com. It blesses my heart every time I open up my email and I see something from one of you guys. So keep those emails coming. The other reason that I love your emails is I like to see your take on projects, because that gives me inspiration for other things for later on. And, you know, who couldn't use a little bit more inspiration? I also wanted to thank y'all for the comments you leave me below. That blesses my heart greatly.
I had so much fun today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Now, since you stuck around to the very end, here's a couple of hints for next week. We are going to be updating our fall village. Now, if you didn't see me construct this house and the rest of the village, I'll have those two videos linked down below, so check those out before we get to next week. We are also going to be shopping in our outdoor store, because I have some amazing projects that we are going to make with our finds. But until then, make it a great day and Happy Tuesday!